All right, it is 7 o'clock. We will call to order our Tuesday, January 17th City Council meeting. Take roll.
Councilman Becker,
Here.
Councilman Hartwick. Here. Councilman Johnson,
Here.
Councilman Schultz.
Here.
President Scheer.
Here. Agenda item 3 is public hearings. This evening we have none. Agenda item 4 is public comment. Just as a reminder, the city council will receive comments from city residents. Comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per individual. Anyone wishing to speak is required to sign up in advance or state the following items for the record when called upon. That would be name, address, subject matter, and contact information. No action will be taken on public comments unless the item is also elsewhere on the agenda. We have nobody signed up ahead of time this evening, so this will be your first call for public comment, either in person or via Zoom. This is a second call for public comment. This is a third call for public comment. Seeing none, hearing none, we will move right along to agenda item number 5, which is our consent agenda. The consent agenda that is outlined is presented for action by the city council. Items may be removed from the consent agenda on the request of any one council member. Items not removed may be adopted by one action without debate. Removed items may be taken up either immediately after the consent agenda or placed later on the agenda at the discretion of the council president.
I have one comment regarding the minutes of the January 3rd, 2023 regular city council meeting. There's just one slight modification to comments reflecting statements that I made. I'd like those changed to state Commissioner Schultz suggested the council put aside subjective or quantitative estimates from the applicants and focus on what message is being sent to the business owners. It's just a slight verbiage and meaning change, and this better reflects what I had said during the meeting.
I would also request, as per city staff, that we remove item 5E from the consent agenda.
A second.
So we have a motion and a request to remove 5E. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5E is removed.
I would move to approve the consent agenda as otherwise presented and with the change that Councilman Schultz noted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on 5A through D and F and G. All of those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That will take us to agenda item 6, which is petitions, requests, and communications. 6A is the presentation from Associated Appraisal relating to the proposed 2023 interim market update. You'll head on up to our podium, and then hopefully that microphone is on and has a green light.
All right. Testing.
Yep, it's on.
Perfect.
All right. Good.
Yep.
All right. Hey guys, my name is Justin Wiersma. I'm the project manager here from Associated Appraisal for the city of Fort Atkinson in regard to the assessments. Just want to provide kind of like a status update here. For the year 2023, the city of Fort Atkinson is going to have a citywide intermarket update, meaning we're going to be bringing values up to 100% of DOR value. DOR is Department of Revenue, bringing things up to 100% of market value. As it sits right now for 2022, you guys are at about 70% market value, 70.5 or 73.74 overall, with 70% in residential land. So what we're going to be doing for 2023 is doing an intermarket update, where we're going to be adjusting the model, which we've started to do already. I'll be doing my maintenance work, which I have already completed as usual. So any building permits, sales, things of that nature, I'll be taking a look at those splits, new construction, anything like that. I've already taken a look at, and we'll be adding that onto the roll as well. And then from there, we'll just be adjusting everything, bringing you guys back into Department of Revenue compliance. And every parcel in the municipality will be getting a notice. So those will be coming out. Our plan as of this moment is to hopefully be hosting Board of Review, which is the final meeting, sometime in July. So that meaning we're hoping to get the new notices out sometime in May. is our goal as of right now. These dates are still a little bit flexible, but that's what we're aiming for right now. And then once those notices are out, you know, the city's probably going to be getting a lot of calls that will be redirected to us. We're going to be having, you know, many PMs working on this project. We'll have a formal open book day where people can come into City Hall and sit down with, you know, myself or one of the other PMs that will be assisting me that, you know, are at the same level of certification that I am, and go through and kind of explain, you know, what happened when we, you know, with this new value that came up, kind of help them understand the process that we have to go through in order to bring you guys back into compliance. And so that will happen. We'll have at least one here in the City Hall. I plan on also doing one over the phone as well. For those who are like at work or are not able to make it into City Hall, or, you know, maybe are away that day or something. Also throughout all the way up until, you know, until pretty much board review day, they can give me a call and we can talk about it all the way through. You know, we want to give people every opportunity they can to, you know, talk about their new value. If they have any evidence supporting that they think their value should be something different other than what I have determined that it should be, I want to give them every opportunity they have before board review comes up that they can bring that to my attention. Yeah, really, that's all I have as of this moment. If there's any other questions or any other part of the process that anybody's wondering about, we did one in 2017, I believe was the last one. So it was fairly recently that we did have one done. So hopefully it's somewhat fresh in people's minds, but it's definitely something that, you know, will help the city get through and explain to everybody that has any questions about their value. We'll help them out with that.
I was just gonna ask, can you just explain, so if one was done in 2017, what is it that either happened or didn't happen that
Yep.
maybe should have, that got the city out of compliance in the first
So, yep,
place?
6 years is very normal in a city time to fall out of compliance nowadays. So what happens is the Department of Revenue releases what's called the sale to assessment ratio study every year. You know, it's a very detailed sales analysis. So basically what they're saying is houses are selling higher than they're being assessed for. And that's happening over and over again. And so the Department of Revenue wants you in compliance in between 90% all the way up to 110%. What happens is when sales, you know, become higher, which we saw, you know, the last couple of years, we've all seen it, where sales are very high and the assessments that we set back in 2017 are relatively low compared to that. So that makes you fall out of compliance with the Department of Revenue sales to assessment ratio faster a little bit. So that's the reason that we need to do the intermarket update to bring you guys back into compliance. So now when we see sales happening, they're going to be much closer to the assessment ratio.
So I think how we present or create messaging around this, that this doesn't mean that if your assessment goes up, it doesn't mean that the city is raising taxes or being able to collect more tax revenue. What it means is that likely the mill rate should go down and the amount that the city can collect in tax revenue is generally unchanged.
Correct. There is still a cap on how much you guys are allowed to raise your budgets. So when you guys get the mill rate, which is the number that is applied, your assessment value times your mill rate will give you your tax number, you know, minus any credits or referendums or anything like that. But just basically it's that. What happens is that mill rate, the way that's calculated is it's going to be all the parcels, the value in the municipality divided by the budget. And when you do that, when we raise the assessments, that number becomes smaller for the mill rate. So that means, you know, your assessment might go up, but because the mill rate goes down, your taxes, you know, a lot of times they're going to stay relatively the same for the most part. You know, there are some outliers, of course, you know, some styles of houses sell higher than they previously did, you know, things of that nature, but a lot of stuff stays relatively within the same scope.
Okay. Yeah, I know from some of the comments I've seen that when someone gets a new appraisal, their first gut reaction is that their taxes are going to go up. And that is not necessarily true, that this process doesn't.
Yep. Correct. And we also hear a lot of times, in some cases, it will go down as well. You know, the other thing we always hear all the time is it's just the city wanting to collect more taxes. That is not the case at all. It's just getting you guys back into the Department of Revenue requires you guys to be in compliance. And that's all we're trying to establish here.
So you're basically leveling the playing field. So everybody's paying relatively equal to what they should be paying.
Correct. Yes, it's a distribution of equity is what it is. So basically, some, we saw it a lot in the last, since COVID hit pretty much. Some styles of houses have really gone up, duplexes, condos, things of that nature. We probably have those assessed too low because, 7 years ago, those sold a lot lower, but now they're selling a lot higher, things like that. So it's just a redistribution of the tax base.
How will that appear when, assuming that the economy keeps having inflation and we start raising interest rates and the housing market goes down from that reason, how will that affect it?
So, so the Department of Revenue is going to release this study every year like they have been doing. We're not allowed to predict the future. So that's actually a good point. When I'm going to be doing this intermarket update, all the values I'm setting are as of January 1st, 2023. And that's kind of part of the equal playing field that you mentioned earlier. So January 1st, 2023 is the date that, time kind of freezes, whatever, if your house is only half built on that day, you're only gonna get 50%, even if you finish it, a week later, that's not what the state recognizes. It recognizes on January 1st. So basically, so then, like you said, if sales, we're not allowed to predict the future, sales starts, changing rapidly, you guys might fall out of compliance again, then we have to look at again what we can do. But as of right now, all we can do is January 1st, 2023.
Justin, one point you brought up, I think it's important for everybody to remember, if we were not using your firm's services, $35,000 is a good chunk of change, but if we didn't go through this process, the state would then come in and do a full reassessment. That would actually be
Correct. Yes.
Probably much more expensive.
Yes, that is a good point. Yes. So yes, if you guys were to keep going, out of compliance, I was just looking at it, but I don't know how many years you guys have been out. I think it's only 2 or 3. Oh, it is 5. Okay. But yep. So what can happen if you guys were to just hold this off for more years is the Department of Revenue would come in and do a Department of Revenue revaluation where the Department of Revenue charges, and it's a much greater amount and it's much more scrutinized, and the border review becomes, much more difficult. It'd be a very big headache for everybody involved, and it's something that is not recommended.
Thank you.
Are there weekend or evening hours to discuss this with you for people who want to, or just got to be a?
Not typically, if I'm willing to change it around a little bit, if, a couple of people are like, hey, I'm not available till 6, on an evening, that's fine, at now and then, if there's a weekend caller, I'll take it. I don't want it to become like a normal thing, but if there's circumstances where it just works better and I get to talk with you, that's all I really need.
I'm just thinking Monday to Friday, there's people who maybe don't even have access to a phone to deal with this.
Sure. Yeah, but if that's the case, we also take, if they have access to email, my email will be my company email will be on the notices that we sent out. You can even still write us. Our PO box will also be on there. So we're trying to give, I don't want to see people the day of border review come in and try to plead their case that, when I have everything already, printed and pretty well set. So we're trying to give people every chance they can. If need really be, we can do 2 days of open books at City Hall. I want to give everybody an equal chance to hear an explanation and get an answer, or, present any evidence they have against the contrary to my value. We're going to give people every chance they get.
And will that information be mailed out to all residents whose assessments are changing of here's exactly your times and dates for your opportunities to have those conversations?
Yep, absolutely. So yes, so every parcel, because it's a revaluation, regardless of value changes, which I imagine every parcel is going to change value. So on the side there, it will say open book day, Fort Atkinson City Hall, this date. We'll probably do, a 6-8 hour open book, it'll say like 9 to 5 on there. And then we'll also say, call this number. If you're not able to make it, we can set you up a different appointment. And then the border review date will be underneath there as well. And that's a date that's going to be set in stone. We have to be in session for 2 hours, just like we normally are, but that date will be set in stone. That's something that we can't move. And if they're not able to make it, we'll try to work around that, but that'll come if that has to come.
And the wording is clear to people what open book means. I just
Yes.
assume, not to disrespect anyone's intelligence, but if I wasn't serving on here, I don't know that I would know what that means, just
Yep,
reading that.
absolutely. And then that's why we also tell people if they don't know, just call us before you do anything. Like I said, I don't want people showing up board review 5 minutes before board starts trying to do that. We have that happen now and then, and it doesn't do anybody any good. That's why I want to give, plenty of time between open book and board review to hear all these calls, get everything reviewed. If I do make a change, they'll get another new notice. And I'm trying to get everybody every chance they can to ask their questions, have their questions answered. Part of that too with the city, we'll be working on, some communication stuff as well to kind of help explain that as well. Helping people understand it is, probably like 75% of this process is just helping people understand it. And once they kind of realize what it is, it works a little bit better that way.
Thank you.
Any other
That kind
questions?
of sounds to me like email would be a great way to communicate with you, because I could email you in the evening and get my response. And if we needed to work out an odd hour where we could talk, we could work that out.
Yep.
Keep it limited.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, emails, it will go to our Associated Appraisal email account first, and then it'll wind up with me. But typically I don't respond to emails until the night anyways, because I'll be out in the field or something during the day. So yeah, if we need to set up any weird hours, Sunday at 3, if you want to call me, fine, I can log into my computer quick and help you out, An open book appointment typically we set aside usually 15 minutes a person. And that's usually what we find, more complicated, or if you come in with like 10 parcels, yeah, that's going to take longer. If you just have a residential home, about 15 minutes, 20 minutes is completely reasonable time to kind of get everything situated to where we want it.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys very much. And if you do have questions, we have cards downstairs. You can email us or give me a call. I'll help you out that way too.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you guys.
6D is the review and possible action relating to
Nope, that's okay.
Yep, and there we go. We'll start that again. 6B is the review and possible action relating to an interim market update by Associated Appraisal.
Thank you. So Justin, thank you for that. That was a great presentation. A lot of information that we're going to continue to get out there to the public in any way that we can, just so everyone's aware of what the process is. So as mentioned, the interim market update, as the city's been out of compliance for 5 years since 2019, we need to have this reevaluation done, as was mentioned, to kind of recalibrate all the property values. And again, if we continue to be out of compliance, Department of Revenue is going to come in, and that's going to be more costly. This is a large dollar amount to look at, the $35,000. Manager Lemire and I had contacted Associated Appraisal back in July to say, we knew we were going to be out of compliance again. What are our options? And they did provide us with several options we could look into. Now, as we're contracted with Associated Appraisal, they did provide us multiple options, whereas if we weren't with a contracted vendor, we would get several quotes out there. The interim market update benefits with this being that we had a 2017 reassessment year. So a lot of the parcel cards that they have not been modified or changed much. They would be doing on-site inspections, as Justin mentioned, if there's any building permits taken out or any drastic changes to properties. The only negative to this, I guess 2 major negatives, is that, again, the field inspections, which would they go on site, it would not be done on any parcels. So if there was a parcel that did a change without a permit, they might not know of that right away. The other one is that it could lead to higher attendance at open book and or board of review. So that just gives an opportunity for the assessors, but then also our employees and City Hall to educate ourselves so we can answer questions. Sometimes residents will just call and say, what is open book and what are my options? So kind of general information. So as I mentioned, the cost for the intermarket update is $35,000. We did include this in our budget for 2023. We briefly discussed it when we presented the budget to the council and to the public, but we didn't go into in depth with that. I'd be happy to answer any questions of the council.
Rebecca, maybe this is a question for you. I'm just curious, is there kind of an anticipation that every 5 or 6 years there's going to be this type of expense just based on the market changing and the potential of falling out of compliance to get back in? Or are there options, you know, in smaller interims, like every 2 years, do we know we could spend 5,000 to have this type of thing done to keep us in compliance?
So we do have several options right now. We are in the middle of a contract, but we have looked at going to full value maintenance, which is one of the options that's on page 24 of the packet under assessment services summary. That is more expensive on an annual basis than regular maintenance, but it would keep us in compliance year after year.
Okay.
So that is something we will be considering in the future. However, we should be able to continue through this contract, I believe, with this interim market update.
Okay, thank you.
I will go ahead and make the motion to approve the interim market update by Associated Appraisal for a budgeted cost of $35,000.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 7 is resolutions and ordinances. This evening we have none. Agenda item 8 is reports of officers, boards, and committees. 8A is the city manager's report.
Thank you. So the city received a $1,200 grant for an election security sub-grant from the Wisconsin Election Commission. We're able to use these funds for hardware, software, professional IT support, security training, security assessments, or physical security improvements for our election equipment. We have to spend the funds by February 28th. It's not a huge grant, but every little bit helps. And I want to thank Clerk Ebert for finding the grant opportunity and applying. We also have received the first half of the EMS Flex Grant in the amount of $67,867.50. That is half of what we will receive in total after we submit proof of payment for the newest ambulance to support the 911 EMS service that the city is now providing. So I want to thank Chief Roush for finding that grant opportunity and applying. We are working with iWork, which is our building and zoning permitting software, to implement, to upgrade our system, implement an online portal and connect that data with our GIS mapping applications. So these technology upgrades will support online building permit applications and connect the city's building permit data to our internal mapping system. The upgrades will reduce paper applications and create efficiencies in the collection and access of building permit data. So it's a very positive thing. Some of you have already seen the great 2022 year in review infographic from the Dwight Foster Public Library. Our library director, Eric Robinson, plans to present and expand upon those 2022 accomplishments and statistics at the February 23rd City Council meeting. The city's comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, or CORP, is in its final stages. The Parks and Rec Director, Brooke Franzine, will be presenting the document to the Plan Commission on January 24th, and it will come before the City Council on February 7th with the help of the city's consultants in this case, which is MSA. Also, the Parks and Recreation Department is looking for seasonal park mowers and park maintenance staff. So if you know someone who might be interested, direct them to the city's website for more information, and our seasonal recreation positions will be posted soon as well. At the wastewater treatment facility, the new screening building is nearing completion. We're having some equipment startups and training are scheduled for the next few weeks, and the influent wet well bypass, which Paul can explain a little bit more about later if he wants to, is tentatively scheduled for removal the first week of February. The project continues to be on track despite some older equipment issues that the council will hear more about later tonight. Our public works staff has distributed a request for proposals for design services and construction bid documents for the potential new public works operations facility. The deadline for those proposals to be submitted is January 27th. TDS continues to install fiber in the city. They began work in September on the northeast side and are on track to have fiber internet available to all parcels within the city by spring of 2025. Fort Healthcare continues to work on plans to expand the current campus to the north. They're holding a public meeting with the neighbors on January 18th and plan to request the vacation of one block of 4th Street within the coming weeks. The council will recall that a zoning map amendment to change the zoning of the 4 parcels north of the hospital campus to institutional zoning was approved by the Plan Commission and City Council in 2022. And additional plans and land use applications will come before the Plan Commission and the City Council within the coming months for that project. Finally, staff at the Horde Museum have all received CPR and AED and first aid training from Fort Healthcare. All 8 employees, part-time and full-time, are now certified. And in addition to that, they have reviewed and revised the emergency procedures in case of weather or other related emergencies and participated in some mock drills recently. So I want to thank Director Marilee Lee for using the time when the museum is closed to the public for worthwhile efforts. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
A quick question.
Hey, Eric just said, yeah, your mic
Sorry,
is on.
thank you. I have a question. I know the hospital campus plans, not necessarily a warm welcome for some of the residents in that area. Where is that meeting on January 18th? Is that open to the public, or is that just specific to the hospital and those residents?
I'm sure if anybody, they wouldn't turn anybody away.
Okay.
It's in the auditorium. But yes, neighbors were invited.
Okay, thank you.
Right, we'll move along. Agenda item 9 is unfinished business. This evening we have none. Agenda item 10 is new business. 10A is the review and possible action relating to moving the date of the city council meeting on February 21st to February 23rd and on April 4th to April 6th due to elections.
Thank you. Referencing the memo, we do have a city ordinance that states anytime there's a council meeting and election on the same night that it was approved to have the meeting moved to Thursday. So this is just the formal process as confirming the moving dates to allow myself and my team to perform double duty, or to not have to do double duty on the nights, and to spread those tasks out.
Move to approve moving the date of the city council meeting on February 21st to February 23rd and the meeting on April 4th to April 6th due to elections.
We have a motion and a second. All of those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. 10B is the review and possible action relating to the purchase of portable radios from the 2023 CIP at a cost of not more than $11,925.76.
Hello, everyone. In the 2023 capital improvement budgets, we planned for and established a dollar amount of $13,000 for the final phase of the upgrades of the portable radios for the police department and for the officers. Earlier in towards the last part of last year, I was before you to gain approval to purchase 16 of those 22 radios we needed with state funds, state grant funds that were awarded to us. So we have those radios, they are deployed, but now we have 6 more that we have to get. We knew that this was coming, and that's why it was planned in the capital improvement budget. We identified 13,000 as our number because we were told by GenCom and Kenwood that they would be increasing their prices in the new year. Our luck is that they haven't done that yet. It's set to happen in February. So when I got the quote, it's came in under what we budgeted. And so the budgeted amount to purchase the 6 radios left that we need is that dollar amount of the $11,925.76. So I'm before you today to gain approval to move forward with that order, to do that order this week. So we can get that lower price before they do their price increases, which, like I said, I'm told is going to happen next month. Just to give a little background, the portable radio, that's the one the officers carry on their belt. It's the one that allows them to communicate with our dispatch, county dispatch, and also almost any other agency in the entire county. Officers need that ability to communicate at all times, and these radios will get the final new upgrades into the hands of our officers just in the nick of time, as yesterday was the first day that the county turned the switch on their new system. So we still have 6 portables out deployed where some officers only have connectivity with just our own dispatch. So the sooner the better. And I'm open for any questions if you have any.
I just have one comment. In my civilian job, I've had to get a quote for radios, and you're getting a much better deal than I am for my company. So, or the company I work for. So I can attest to this being a reasonable price based on my experience purchasing radios. So
good.
Well, obviously, anytime we have something come in under what we were expecting or had budgeted to pay is nice. So I move to authorize the purchase of portable radios from General Communications through the 2023 CIP at a cost not to exceed $11,925.76 for the police department.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
10C is the review and possible action relating to the state municipal agreement for the resurface and repair of South Main Street.
Hi, good evening. The 10C and 10D are obviously related. We applied for state grant funding that was administered from the federal bipartisan infrastructure law last spring. And we're awarded a couple of projects, one being the South Main Street improvements and the other the Commonwealth Drive improvements. These are not complete reconstructions. These are basically milling off the existing asphalt, relaying new, and then curb and gutter replacements in a spot capacity as needed. But Commonwealth for sure is one of those collector streets that we would like to get finished up. We've got about half of that one done. And South Main Street is it's showing its age down there around Casey's and to the south. About another month or two, we'll start to see it again, start cracking as we thaw out. So both of those roads are in need of some work. I had told the state that we would budget those for 2025 and accomplish them. Then I do believe we can bump that up or back it off. One of the things that we'll figure out is these all have a 20% match. And so I want to make sure that we can kind of arrange these various projects that are coming in so that we don't need to extend ourselves beyond our $720,000 a year of road funds and meet that 20% match in there. So we may schedule these projects over a couple of years, but the 2030 deadline is the hard deadline, has to be completed by then. Happy to answer any questions council might have.
is this the same year, this year? You're gonna do that this year, correct?
No, 2025 is where we were planning on doing construction for that. So I would probably get design going in 2024.
And this year you're doing Main Street itself to Whitewater Avenue and out to Highway M, correct?
Yes, that's a state DOT project as well. And we signed a state municipal agreement for that quite some time ago. But yeah, that project is on track and should be actually going out to bid here shortly. So we will hear a little bit of an update on that probably in the city manager's report, because there's nothing for council to approve under that situation.
Andy, I'm just curious, under the financial analysis part of the memo, you mentioned if additional grant applications are successful, that the funding strategy may need to be revisited. So are there additional grants out specifically for these two projects, or would that be related to other projects and would just kind of have to adjust the whole funding structure as
Yeah.
a whole?
Yeah, it's the latter. There are other
Okay.
projects. So we have late March, another deadline for another round of grants to apply for. And there's some federal money that we're looking at that would be for large projects like Montclair overpass type projects. So anything can kind of happen, and that's why I put that in there, so that I just want to make sure that council is aware this is a fairly fluid scheduling situation here in a good way, because there's a lot of opportunities for us.
Always happy when we can do more road repair. So.
I'll make the motion to approve the state and municipal agreement for the resurface and repair of South Main Street and authorize staff to execute the agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carries. Then 10D is the review and possible action relating to the state municipal agreement for the resurface and repair of Commonwealth Drive, which again, we just heard on.
I move to approve the state municipal agreement for the resurface and repair of Commonwealth Drive and authorize staff to execute the agreement.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions regarding that item? All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. 10E is the review and possible action related to the purchase of a replacement front end loader at the wastewater utility at a cost of $160,455.
Hello, everybody. So our budget this year included $165,000 for the purchase of a replacement for our 1992 Michigan / Volvo loader. We use it for our handling our biosolids at the plant and loading our field application truck, moving snow around in the winter time. So it's pretty much, we use it year round, probably an average of 3 or 4 days a week. So we started, we've been investigating this for a while, and at one time we thought we'd be able to write a spec for this and, order a machine like we would normally do. And as we kind of investigated this, even into the budget last year, we realized that because of supply chain issues, it's going to be pretty hard to find. And we started to learn pretty quickly that machines were going to be pretty much what we could find in stock. In fact, one of the, it changes so quickly that even one of the possible suppliers that we had thought they were getting machines in this year, and then they found out they weren't. So in the end, they ended up not supplying a proposal for us. So we investigated and found the companies that we found that had loaders that would be in 2023 were the Volvo. It's actually a L60, which is number wise smaller than the one we have right now, but it's 30 years newer and they're much bigger machines than they were back when we bought them. And then the other supplier was Brooks Tractor, the John Deere representative in Wisconsin. So they were able to provide us, they both have machines coming in springtime. So we had 3 proposals, 2 from Brooks Tractor for 2 different models. They had a John Deere Model 524P front end loader that with trade-in of our 1992 Michigan was a total cost of $166,581 and 33 cents. They had a Model 544 that was total with trade-in $169,754.67. And then we had the airing equipment with the Volvo Michigan, well, not so much Michigan anymore. Now it's just Volvo L60 for a total cost of $160,455. The difference between the 2 John Deere loaders, what I was able to find out from them were the 544 has been around a long time model wise, and the 524 is a newer model that has some different features, looks a little different, I guess. The things we were interested in mainly were the height they could reach, because our truck is pretty high side loading. So it has to be able to reach over the top, and that it could handle the weight that we needed it to handle to be able to load into the truck. So all 3 of these meet those requirements. They weren't too crazy on features with things we didn't really need. It wasn't too bad. We were a little concerned that maybe there'd be a lot of things because, just like any car dealers right now, when they're getting vehicles in, they're getting cars in that are pretty loaded up. These weren't too bad from what I understand. And with our municipal discount, pricing came in under our budget, which I was also a little concerned about because you hear about price gouging all the time with that. And from what it seemed like, these were pretty good prices. So we do recommend the purchase of the 2023 Volvo L60 from Airing Equipment for the total cost of $160,455. Questions?
I have one question on the quote for the Volvo L60H. The quote had an extra line item on it that wasn't on the John Deere, which was the 59-inch fork carrier with 72-inch forks. Was that just a standard feature on the other 2? Or
No, they do have, maybe I don't have that page included. They did have 72-inch forks on theirs too. It is included in this price. It's on the last page of each one. There was under dealer attachments. There's 96 by 72-inch forks.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Sure, yeah, no problem.
Next question I have, obviously we have some price conscious residents. was used equipment, is that even available, or is there additional risk in what that may cost over the life of the vehicle that we didn't consider a used piece of equipment?
Well, part of it is that we, like our current loader is, we've had it for 30+ years. I mean, so when you keep a piece of equipment, when you buy something new and you keep it that long, the value, your yearly cost is, it comes into being a pretty good value. We looked into, in fact, I think the case dealer was, we weren't opposed to finding used equipment. Sometimes they have things coming back on leases and things like that. They did not have anything that fit our need. The three that we talked to about that, they did not have anything at the time coming back in. So you'll take the risk of being able to find a piece of equipment. We were a little concerned with our loader with the age it is, where we had problems with the fuel pump, and we had problems finding parts that we did finally find. As far as I know, that that we checked, we didn't do a nationwide check of things, but with our discount, usually on vehicles and equipment like this that they supply for municipalities, usually the value is usually just best to buy new for us. But if we could have found something that fit the bill, we would have definitely looked at it. No reason not to.
And then also looking at like the lifetime, like maintenance costs, do you believe that the Volvo, we're going to be able to service it with parts and maintain it over, maybe a 30-year lifetime?
We didn't have any problem until this last year, actually, with the Volvo that we have. So we haven't had any problems with that. It's a pretty common piece of equipment. And even when it was Michigan /Volvo, Volvo I think they bought Michigan back in the early 90s. Ours was like during the transition of that. But we've never, other than this year, this is the first time. We haven't needed a lot of parts. It's been a really good machine for us that way. We've had a few typical type of things happen with it, but nothing structural or nothing big, so we didn't have any problems. So I'm not concerned.
Okay.
Feeling confident with the reasoning you presented on this, so I'll move to authorize the purchase of a replacement front end loader from Airing Equipment for the wastewater utility at a cost not to exceed $160,455, including the trade-in of the current 1992 Michigan L70 loader.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Happy to see this one come in under budget as well. So
We were too.
all of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Takes us to 10F, which is the review and possible action related to the purchase of an emergency replacement of digester blower number 3 variable frequency driver for the wastewater utility.
So I was here in December, I think, talking about the same system, our aerobic digestion system. And we had at that time, a blower, the compressor portion of the blower fail. That also we had an emergency repair or replacement, and then subsequent rebuilding of that one. And then that will come back for stock to replace the next one. Couple of weeks later, we had one of the variable speed drives that control those blowers. The drive for blower number 3. It failed overnight on a weekend, of course, and we were able to keep it going. It was an overheat condition. We were able to just leave the cabinet of it open, which you're not really supposed to do. Have fans blowing on it to keep it cooled. And then on Monday, we had Nick and then Jeff also from electrical and former electrical come out to take a look at it. And we started by, just keeping it running. The next thing was to try and see if we could find a replacement. It was determined that what the fan that was, I mean, a lot of times they have a cabinet fan that's very easily accessible. This has an internal fan that is in the back, would require everything else to be removed, which we would have done had we been able to get a fan. We were not able to find a fan. If we could have, it was about $1,500, which still would have been cheap compared to the cost of a new drive. These drives were all purchased they were one each year. I think it was 2000, 2001, 2002, I think. And for the life of a variable frequency drive, that's exceptional. So we were looking for replacement drives. Nick and Jeff looked and could not find anything in stock. We had already contacted LWL and our control supplier, and they had looked and they about that same time they gave us an option of the 3 that I have listed here. Nick and Jeff saw the price on that, and they couldn't find anything better price wise than that. Besides, they were not getting they were all pretty much similar, but same kind of delivery times that we're seeing here. So LWL gave us the option of 3. The fastest and most reasonably priced model was the Allen Bradley PowerFlex for the 22 to 24 week delivery. The next closest on delivery, which was our main look for, that was the ABB at 25 to 30 weeks for a couple of thousand more. And then the Eaton, which is what a lot of our newer drives that we've been getting are Eaton drives, but 48 week delivery was just not even a starter. So we did order the Allen Bradley PowerFlex from LW Allen, and it'll be here hopefully maybe sooner than 22 or 24 weeks. I'm not gonna, shouldn't even say that probably, because it could end up being the other way around. But we do have 2 more of these drives that are the same age. We'll make sure the cabinets are nice and clean, and that we can keep them from overheating, because I'd like to really wait until CIP this year and then get them in and just squeeze them into next year to be replaced, but actually try to at least plan a little bit for them, because they are quite pricey. So although about the same price they were in 2000. Drives, for whatever reason, have stayed pretty steady. Don't know why. It's kind of like computers, I guess. I mean, it really is a lot of computer equipment in them. So we did order that and issue purchase order to LW Allen for that Allen Bradley PowerFlex, and so we asked for approval for that purchase.
I think the only question I have, and really this would apply to the next item that you'll address as well, but just the potential impact that this has on the wastewater utility replacement expense count, since obviously these weren't budgeted or planned for things. Of any concerns about where that fund will be with these 2 unplanned expenses?
So we'll probably, as these come in, because we're not going to be paying for those until this year now, we'll put those in we'll charge those to our regular supply account that we have for equipment. And then we'll, as the year goes on, if everything goes well, we'd probably still be okay. That would still be these 2. I mean, we've had years where we've spent very little in that account other than just minor supplies. Unfortunately, we had a really bad run in that process. And obviously had some major pieces of equipment, but that's the thing out by us. If you can't budget for all those kind of things that can go, otherwise you'd have a $80,000-$90,000 supply account budget for that. So as far as I know, I don't know the exact dollar amount, but I know we have more than sufficient funds in our replacement fund to pay for that, and we would still be in very good shape in that account after that. But we'll only probably use that if we have to. So we have the option of reimbursing our supply account for those pieces of equipment, because they're listed in our replacement account schedule. So we could do that if we needed to.
So just for the council's information, there is $80,000 in the general plant supplies account for the wastewater utility. And then there's over $500,000 in that replacement expense account. So there are plenty of funds available for these types of purchases.
Thank you.
Sounds like these instances are relatively rare, but unfortunately, when they do come up, they're pretty expensive.
Right. Yeah, there are some, certain processes we have that have some very expensive pieces of equipment. And you could, we could have planned to replace those drives or the motors maybe, to put them in a schedule. Then you always risk, well, how many more years could we have gotten out of that? Normally supply chain is not this difficult. And we would have been able to get a drive in 2 weeks. Not, 22 weeks. So.
I will just also note that these are all funds from the wastewater utility, so there's no general fund dollars, there's no tax dollars that go to this. This is funded completely by the wastewater utility.
I move to authorize the purchase of the digester blower number 3 variable frequency drive for the wastewater utility from LW Allen / Altronics for $24,380 to be paid for using the wastewater utility replacement expense account.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All of those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 10G is the review and possible action related to the emergency purchase of aerobic digester blower number 3 motor replacement.
I joked about the building being cursed, but it's just, unfortunate. Sometimes when you have things like that where they tell you, well, they have a normal life of this many years, usually you get longer, and we did, but it seemed like the clock went out on all those things at this, around the same time. So just unusual. So we had a motor fail in that same system for one of the other blowers. They are quite a unusual motor. More and more often being used nowadays for that type of blower, but it's because of the blower arrangement. The motor is pretty much a specialty motor. We did find other suppliers that would normally, WEG is the brand of motor, and it's not, they're carried quite widely. They're used in a lot of paper industry and that type of thing. But the arrangement of this has an extra bearing, or it's a belt, it drives by belt the blower. We just couldn't find any other ones other than from the manufacturer. The motor was too far gone to be rebuilt. Normally you can rebuild them, but when this motor went, it literally filled the building with smoke. So it was not a possibility. So we again found the motor at the supplier of the blower, Atkinson USA. We issued them a purchase order for the $16,072.81. Because we needed to get one on order. It'll be here maybe next week. We're hoping. So we'll be waiting. But we did issue that purchase order in December to get that moving right away. As again, it's a critical piece of equipment, and we're sharing air among 2 digesters right now, and that works in the winter, but it won't work in the summertime. So we asked for approval of the purchase of the motor from Atkinson USA for $16,072.81.
I might have missed it. What's the anticipated delivery on that, or do we have it already?
No, we don't have it yet. We were hoping it would be this week, but it looks like next week. But we've been checking on updating that. So like I said, we're sharing our air among 2 of the digesters right now, and that's working out fine as long as we don't have another failure. So hopefully it'll be here soon.
I would move to authorize the purchase of the aerobic digester blower number 3 motor replacement from Atkinson USA for $16,072.81 to be paid for using the wastewater utility replacement expense account.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hopefully I won't be back ready.
What'd you say? Don't break
Every
any,
time
don't
you
break
say
anything
that.
else. Yeah.
Don't rush back, Paul.
Agenda item number 11 is miscellaneous. This evening we have none. Now, agenda item 12 is claims appropriations and contract payments. 12A is the review and possible action relating to the verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and authorization of payment.
Move to approve list of verified claims presented by the Director of Finance and authorize payment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Hartwick.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Schultz.
Aye.
President Shear.
Aye, that motion carries. Agenda item 13, 14, 15. And 16 will be items related to a closed session. The city council may continue into closed session pursuant to state statute 19.851E. To conduct other specified public business where competitive reasons require a closed session, such as to review elements of a development agreement with Tip of the Spear LLC, to review elements of a development agreement with Hoffman Development Group / Cedar Prize, and to review elements of a development agreement with Fort Healthcare. And I missed one in my haste, which was to negotiate an amendment to purchase and sale agreement with 2L Loeb LLC.
I move to adjourn into closed session pursuant to state statute 19.851E to conduct other specified public business where competitive reasons require closed session for the following reasons: to negotiate an amendment to the purchase and sale agreement with 2L Loeb LLC, to review elements of a development agreement with Tip of the Spear LLC, to review elements of a development agreement with Hoffman Development Group Cedar Prize, and review elements of a development agreement with Fort Healthcare.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. It is worth noting that we will not adjourn back into closed session. Or I'm sorry, open session. This will be a roll call vote.
Councilman Becker,
Aye.
Councilman Hartwick.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Schultz.
Aye.
President Shear.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. We will now enter into closed session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.